I forgot what I was going
Science.
to. Okay, we're going to learn about thermal energy. What is thermal energy? Thermal energy is just heat. It's just hot things. Get that by? No, I'm joking. Thermal energy is the transfer of energy from one piece of matter, from one object, to another object through heat. It's expressed as heat. So, for example, whenever you turn on the stove and you put a pot on top of it, or an ice cube on top of it, or a pot on top of it, and you fill a pot with water, and the water starts to boil, that is an example of thermal energy. The stove is getting hot. It is hot, and it's transferring that heat, that thermal energy. Heat is thermal energy to the pot, and then the pot gets hot because it gets more energy. Whenever the pot gets more energy, it gets hot. And then since the pot has more energy, it goes to the water. And the water gets energy, and the water gets hot, and it starts to boil. So whenever a thing has thermal energy, it gets hotter, right? And the way this works is that you get these atoms, right? These atoms that make up everything. Sometimes they jiggle a lot, okay? This would be them having kinetic energy. They're jiggling. They're jiggling, right? And sometimes they transfer this jiggling energy to other atoms near them, okay? And that would be giving them some energy, making them jiggle. And that jiggling, when all of them are jiggling, and we see them jiggling more and more and more, whenever they get more and more energy, that's heat. That's whenever we touch it and it gets hot. It gets hot. It goes whoo, 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 whoo. Now, one thing you notice is that with light energy, when we discussed light energy, I said that light can make things hot. Like whenever the sun shoots the light at Earth, it makes things hot. Now, we don't call this thermal energy, though. We don't call the light energy that makes things hot thermal energy. We don't, because the difference between the thermal energy here and the way that objects get hot from the sun is that thermal energy is from the atoms themselves. The atoms are jiggling, and they transfer that jiggling energy to another atom. They don't shoot a light out to it that makes it hotter. They just move closer to it, and that causes it to jiggle. Okay? That's how it works. So whenever something gets hot, whenever you put an ice cube on top of something that's a little bit hot, it's a little bit warm, and it starts to melt, that's because the thing that it's on, let's say the counter that it's on, is transferring some of its heat, some of the thermal energy, some of the jiggling that the counter is doing to the ice cube. When the ice cube starts to get a little bit jiggly, the atoms inside the ice cube starts to get a little bit jiggly, and they start to get a little bit hotter because they're jiggling a little bit more. And they melt and they spread out because they want to be more jiggly. And that's how thermal energy works. Okay, you got matter that transfers its energy, which that energy is the atoms jiggling, those little pieces that make up that matter, jiggling, and they transfer their energy, they move their energy to another thing. And that makes that thing hotter. Okay, like whenever a stove moves its heat to the pot and then the pot moves it to the water. That's thermal energy. Okay, and it's different than light energy because light's not an atom, it's not mass, it's not matter. Light's light. Okay, so thermal energy is when atoms jiggle and they move that jiggle to another atom, to more matter. And light energy is when something heats up or something gets energy directly from light, okay? Not from another atom jiggling. And yeah, so identify, some things at home that get hot and are from thermal energy. And yeah, so it's cool.